Good evening and welcome to Kay's weekly live discussion about emotional awareness. And this is already I believe it's week 8 already. Like we said after the 28-day challenge, we're going to 52 week, and that is flying by. It's been an incredible week with lots happening, but I'll update you all on that at the end. So if you're watching the replay and you just want the updates, skip forward. I'm going to be kind on everybody tonight. I did say last week we had yoga tonight, but there's been a change of schedule, and I'm sure you're getting used to this because it's not the first time this has happened. And amazingly, Pip has agreed to come along and speak with us about her wonderful philosophy or mantra about leaving a trail rather than following a path. So, good evening, Pip. Hi.
Hello, Kay. How you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good, and it's amazing to have you here. I've been excited to want to speak to you for a while since we joined the accountability group, because we've been sort of passing ships in there, haven't we? And sort of on the business,
Yes. My year hasn't started completely how I had planned it, but there you go.
So tonight's a night where we can stop saying, right, what have you got to do this week? What have you done this week? Tonight's the night we can actually talk about what we're passionate about mental health awareness. As you say it. For me, my show is emotional awareness, but it all ties together. It's all linked. But you have a lot more qualifications than I do in different areas. So for you, do you go under the umbrella of mental health awareness?
For me, my business has two core strands to it. So I'm a mindset coach. I'm a NLP practitioner. So that's an NLP and empowerment coach. And as part of that, I look predominantly at people's mindsets and their beliefs and understanding how people and again, it's emotional awareness is such an interesting concept because a lot of people don't understand the fact that they actually have a choice in their emotions. People, when I have this conversation with people, they're kind of like, well, I can't help how I feel, and it's like, no, but you have a choice what you do with that reaction. And so it's a very interesting conversation that side. And then the other part of my business is I'm a writer, so I'm a copywriter. I work in marketing communications, so I write emails, blogs, newsletters. I help people. I train people on how to actually write effective communication to get their message across. So again, that's words. And then with the NLP is very much about the language that we use with ourselves and others. So for me, it all merges together really, really well. I think the mental health umbrella is something that, we've always had mental health. It's not new, but we're becoming so much more open about having those discussions, and I think that's a really, really sort of good thing. But it does amaze me the number of people who, as I say, don't realize that they actually have a choice. They are very it's almost like the emotions have taken on a personality of themselves,
almost like
rather than actually it's the personality.
Segments them off, doesn't it?
It's like I mean, I know one of the things
kind of puts them in this little cage, and then they're going, I want to get out. And
absolutely. I mean, as a child, I was very much brought up in the family, the household of sort of like stiff upper lip, and we don't show too much emotion, and you just get on with it, and it's like it doesn't really matter. So a lot of my childhood was not it wasn't a bad childhood, but it was I wasn't really taught how to process my emotions as a child. So I know when I had my first, what we call my Pip blip, which was when I fell over after trying to outrun some mental health issues, which you can't outrun them. I tried really hard. I thought if I became a workaholic, if I threw myself into work, and if I worked really hard, and if I kept going, and if I was working stupid hours, sleeping a couple of hours a night and thinking that's okay. Eventually I fell over. Understandable now. I've learned a lot about myself.
Good.
One of the things that I found as going through that process was that actually there is a really, really healthy way to deal with emotions. And a lot of that is relating to the sort of the self-talk that we have.
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't think, again, you know, we're so hard on ourselves, and we're such our harshest critics. And I'm not sure that we would tolerate somebody else talking to us in the manner that we talk to ourselves.
No, no,
So,
I
but
know. I don't
but
saying.
we're almost like we're almost trained in a way to focus on that sort of like that inner critic.
Mm,
You know, it's like you drop something, and rather than going, "Oh no, no one died," the first thing we do is, "Oh my God, you're so stupid."
yes,
Well,
self-derogatory. Yeah,
yeah, it's out of our mouths before we know it.
yeah.
And that emotion that goes with it is, it's like, you know, that's such a negative emotion. It's such a, you know, you're
Mm,
down on yourself for dropping
yeah.
something.
And it's actually quite a British cultural thing, because I've
Yeah.
worked with a lot of people from other countries, and they're like, why do you all do that to each other? And why do you say that to yourselves? We've not
Yeah.
been taught to do that. You know, I've worked with a lot of people from Norwegian, Swedish sort of
Mhm.
companies, and they're shocked when they see people
Yeah.
doing that. It's like it's a
Yeah.
British thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I think for me, it's interesting that you touch on other cultures, because one of the sort of like real defining moments in my childhood was at the age of
Mm.
12. I moved to Sweden. I moved to Stockholm.
Oh right. Yeah.
So my dad worked for Reuters, the news agents, and he was posted over there to look after the sort of like the Nordic countries. So I had a choice of go with my parents or go to Roding, which is one of the top public schools down in Brighton. And
Okay.
it's a real, you know, it's one of those sliding doors moments in your life,
Mm.
where I sort of think, well, I wonder what my life would have been like had I gone to public school. But equally, for me, it was a no-brainer. It was like, oh, I want to go and see a new culture. I want to go live in a different country. I want to go and
Mm.
learn a new language. But
Wow.
doing that, so at 12, so I lived there from 12 and came back to school my 16th birthday, which is a very, very pivotal time in your life, in
Mm.
terms of when you're forming a lot of the beliefs and a lot of your sort of like your anchors, and putting your sort of like real
Yeah.
anchors down. I did that in a foreign country. So I did that in a country that's very liberal, very it's sort of like equality is massive. Everyone's equal there.
Yes. Yeah.
But I went to an international school. So I'd gone from a very, you know, sort of like small market town in West Sussex, where in a school where it doesn't say, it sounds horrible now, but they're you know, I knew one Asian person, that was it.
Mm.
And I suddenly went to, you know, to an international school where there were people from all over the world. There were people, I was living in a, you know, a different country with a different culture, with a different language. To get to school in the morning, I would have to get a tram, the underground, so a tram, a bus, and then the underground, and then walk every day on my own at the age of
God.
12. You know, and it's one of those things, as I say, I find it, I think it's a very, very defining moment in my life, because it made me stand on 2 feet. It made me appreciate that is a big world, and that there's so many different cultures and people work in different ways.
Mm.
You know, it made me a lot more confident in myself, because you're catapulted into this almost sink or swim kind of environment, where you've
Yeah.
got people who were there for you know, for years, and other people who were just there for a term. So it was like, okay,
Yeah.
you're new, let's get to know you. And it helped me really come out of my shell. But it, as I
Yeah.
say, but it also made me appreciate that different cultures operate in completely different ways.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it
And
makes you realise how much we take as that's the way it's done, when
yeah,
actually that's the way it's done here.
here. And
um,
even that, it's that's the way it's done here now. Or,
yes.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in the 70s. So in the sort of 70s, we moved there
Yeah.
in 82. So sort of 70s, early 80s, completely different culture, totally different
Yeah.
culture. So it's
Absolutely.
very, very difficult
It's
to
a,
sort of judge
it,
what was right then on how we know things now.
yeah. And actually, if anybody wants to know what it was like in the 70s, and we talk about a different culture, you don't really think about it being that much different until suddenly there's this TV series that comes out that is set in the 70s, and they've reenacted the 70s so accurately to every single detail
Yeah.
in the properties, what they're wearing, what they're saying, the whole culture around it. And that was Life on Mars,
Life on Mars, yeah.
followed
Yeah.
followed by
And it was,
Ashes to Ashes.
it was like being catapulted back into my childhood. Yeah.
It was, yeah, yeah. I must admit,
Yeah.
when I saw that, you suddenly realise how far culture has
Yeah.
come just in our lifetime, and
Massively, massively.
and it's like, but at the time, being quite young, then you didn't really take it in. It was just, oh, that's childhood and things
Yeah.
progress. But to look back now at that, and if anybody's never seen it, would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. But as I say,
Yeah,
that's when
Life on
it's
Mars.
really difficult, because we have an emotional reaction based on the information that we have now, what's acceptable now, what's
Mm,
culturally appropriate now. But when you suddenly look back in history and you have an emotional reaction based
mm,
on, we're trying to judge the past based on where we are now, and that's really difficult, because whilst yes, you can look at it and go, we wouldn't do it like that now, at the
mm.
time we kind of didn't know any better. It's like,
No.
it's like the people who I'm a massive sort of history buff, and
Okay.
I love sort of like the Tudors, and sort of like I think Elizabeth I was an incredible leader.
Yeah.
But in those days they thought it was acceptable to put lead on your face. Well, now we
Yeah.
know that lead, not a good thing to put on our face.
Or mercury for your hats and
And that's the thing, is
all sorts
you,
of
you
things.
have to learn, you have to keep growing, and part of that is
Mm,
actually being able to sort of like, put your hands up and go, yeah, I got it wrong. We got it wrong. So learn from it and move forward. We can all beat ourselves up. As I say, it goes back to that inner critic that we talked about at the beginning. It's that, we can all beat ourselves up for like days afterwards. It's like, oh my God, why did I say that? Oh, you're the world's,
yeah.
and the person that we've said it to has kind of moved on.
Mm,
I
yeah.
used to do, I still do, obviously I do PR, and I still help people get their messages out there. And I know that I've had issues in the past where it's like you sort of get misquoted, or you you send something out that's got a mistake in it. And yeah, I mean, there's me ready to commit Harry Carey, sort of like, I'll follow my sword. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's
Mm,
like, and then you sort of realize that this has gone to so many people and not a single person's come back and gone, you made a mistake.
yeah.
Oh, okay. And it just, one of my pipisms that I have, and I have a lot of pipisms, is you're okay is somebody else's exceptional. And it's so true. When we beat ourselves up and go, oh God, oh, why did I do it like that? There's somebody
Mm,
else out there who's going, wow, I could never do that. I could never do that.
yeah.
And it's reminding ourselves of these things. It's reminding ourselves that, we're human. We make mistakes. We don't get it right. We don't come out of the womb this perfectly formed thing. We gain more by getting it wrong than we
Yeah.
do by getting it right. It's like,
Paying
one of the things in NLP is around, there's no failure, only feedback. And I have a lot of conversations with people. I mean, one of my hobby is, I'm an equestrian, so I have a horse, and trust me, you learn a lot more when you fall off than you stay on. You do learn a lot, and it's genuinely the only sport where you kind of fall off and go, yeah, my fault, my fault. It's also the only sport where your equipment has a say. I used to work with a lot of cyclists, and they were always like, well, what do you mean your horse decided it didn't want to go? I'm like, can you imagine cycling along and your bike suddenly goes, nah, not today? And then, no. Yeah. So but even that, it teaches you a lot of resilience. It teaches you to be quite grounded, because you can't get airs and graces about it, because horses are great levelers. But in that moment, you do learn so much about yourself.
Yes.
And you you can't, and again, you have to have that, the emotional that goes with it, because yeah, I've been to competitions and I have got on my horse and I've gone, we are going to nail this. Absolutely, we're going to nail this. We've done the preparation, we've done all the training, we've had the lessons, we've been to the clinics, you know, we're there. And then we get in the ring and my horse is like, yeah, can we go back to the collecting ring? Don't want to. No, I'm not. I can't jump it. I can't jump that. Oh my God, there's a person, you know, and you have to kind of go, all right, not our day. Yeah, absolutely. You want to get off. I want to go. I just want to like wring his neck and go, mate, what? But, you know, I'm dealing with an inanimate object. So again, it's that being able to manage your emotions, because horses, I mean, horses specifically, they're flight creatures. If I lose my temper with him, I might as well just put him back in the stable and walk home, you know, because they pick up your emotions. He knows the minute I turn up at the yard, he knows whether I'm in a good mood, a bad mood, whether I've had a bad day, you know, and I can't fool him. So for me, that's my kind of, I have to leave my stress at the stable door. So it has massively taught me how to be grounded.
Yeah. And we could do with teaching a few more people to understand those strategies of understanding when somebody's having a good and bad day.
Yeah.
And animals just seem to have this innate way of doing, not all animals. I know my daughter's dog doesn't. She just pounces on you no matter what mood you're in.
Yeah, I've got 3 cats like that.
She's just like,
they're like, really, I don't need you here.
Cuddle, 90, and that's sort of like, I don't know, whatever, about 60 pounds of her.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I'm going to love you. Yes. I know. I've got I had 3 cats, and yeah, they're all very they don't have any sort of personal boundaries at all. They're just like completely in your face. It's like, all right, yeah, hi. But yeah, it's and I think that's one of the things that you know, I love about my job is that I get to play in 2 different arenas, but they're kind of interlinked. I know, you know, for me, I wrote, we did a campaign, and so we're basically, we were taking people from basically from from Visa to MasterCard. So we're changing their debit card. Quite an important thing to get right with customers, because obviously it's their only form of payment. And as part of that, we were going to introduce contactless. Now, you know, now contactless is one of those things where, you know, what would we have done within the pandemic if we hadn't had contactless? I mean, it's been, you know, it's everywhere. It's now so normalized. But at the time, it was still quite, somebody's going to walk past me and take all my money.
Yeah.
So we did we did a campaign, and we wrote really good comms. I wrote this comms and we sent it out. The number of complaints we had was through the roof.
Yeah.
And they were complaining about the contactless bit. So for me, I had a lot of the stakeholders saying, well, the comms is a failure. And I'm like, no, from my perspective, the comms is a success, because A, they opened the letter, B, they read it, they didn't like the message,
but they got in touch. Yeah.
But they still got in touch, so they read it. So from my perspective, the comms was a big tick.
Yes.
Because, you know, if I'd have seen, if I'd have been doing a marketing campaign and I'd got that level of response back, it would have been seen as a success. But because they didn't like the message, and they had an emotional reaction based on their own circumstances and what they understood about the product, it was deemed to be a failure. So this is what I say, this is why I love my job, because it's like I get to play in these different spaces.
Now I get that, because I had similar position but in a different way. I was the first local employee in North Norfolk for the first round 2 offshore wind farm.
Oh wow.
And they set up a little shop in Wells next to sea back in 2010. And the idea was the management team in Norway, who were preparing for construction of the wind farm, were going to take it in turns. And there was about 60 people on the management team. And they were going to take it in turns to come over on a weekend, open this little shop up and answer questions to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the first 2-day weekend, they realised they needed somebody with local knowledge.
Yeah.
They said, everybody that came in asked questions. It was great. And we understood what they were saying in English, but we didn't understand what
Yeah.
they wanted to know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
I'd gone to school in Wales. I'd grew up in the local area, but I also lived outside of the area, so I was able to sort of still stay professional within the
Yeah.
community. I
Mm-hmm.
understood about the local education, the holiday trade, and all the industry, the housing market issues there, and I understood all what the community was about, the fishing and everything. There was a lot of trying to build a wind farm around a fishing community. That can be very interesting as well.
Yeah,
Um,
gosh, yeah.
and especially when my brother-in-law is one of the fishermen.
But that's what I mean. It's like people
Yeah,
react based on their own view of the world, based on their, their sort of like
yeah,
their map, that what is important to them.
yes,
It's why
yeah,
you see people who, get so passionate about things, which is wonderful. But then
mm,
sometimes it can be at the detriment of actually the argument, because they don't want to even acknowledge that there's potentially other sides to the argument. And
no,
nothing that one of the things that I've learned, the older I get, one of the things I learned is there is no black or white. Everything is shades of grey, because
yeah,
there's nothing that you can categorically say is this is the absolute truth. I mean, even
yeah,
science, they're going, oh, actually, we've learned more, because the more information you get, the more knowledge you get,
down, yeah,
the more you understand that actually the way that you thought about things previously, you go, oh, actually, I've got a bit more information now, and maybe I wasn't, you
yeah,
know. That's why I do struggle when I come up with people who are very entrenched.
yeah,
So when you've got, and you do, we've all met them. You meet people who are really, really entrenched, and it's like it's my way or the highway, and you think,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah. That
okay,
was my upbringing.
yeah, and it's like, oh, that's as I say, it's almost like you suddenly, I think for me, when you start going on a personal development journey, which is something, again, it's a label, we all have a label, but when you start going onto a personal development journey, it's almost like you suddenly start like this, and then as you go through it, you suddenly go, oh, okay, oh, yeah, oh, right, oh, no, and I can tell, oh, there's a lot, and it's like, that's the
Like
thing.
this.
Yeah, exactly, it is,
That's
it's
yeah,
exactly
exactly
that.
like that.
It's
And
exactly that. It's like,
it
until someone
physically
tells
feels
you,
like it. Yeah,
oh,
it
massive,
it is like
it's
a
so
almost like a
uncomfortable.
physical sensation. I liken it at times to when in the film in the X-Men when Xavier goes out onto that gantry in that big
Mm,
dome and he
yeah,
puts that helmet on and all of a sudden his mind goes out across the universe.
yeah,
I tell you what,
yeah.
when you've relaxed enough and thought about things and you actually stop thinking and you let your mind go into a completely peaceful state, it
Hmm.
actually feels like that moment in that
Yeah,
dome when
yeah,
all of a sudden, literally in a split second, your mind can go whoosh, all the way
yeah,
around the globe and bring a whole load of
absolutely.
information back, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with that now?
Yeah, I know. No,
What
I know exactly what you mean. And I think, as I say, that's one of the exciting things that I get to do when I work with the clients that I work with. And when, we're talking about things and they're like, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do anything and I can't do this and I'm stuck here and I'm stuck there and blah, and then it's like when you go through that process and you're like, okay, so who's stopping you? Well, no. Who is actually stopping you?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, it's me, isn't it?
yeah,
It's like, yeah, it's me. Yeah, okay. And it's like, okay, so who's built these barriers? Who's built this wall? Who's put who's put this stuff in front of you?
yeah,
And it's like, it's easy to say, oh, circumstances, oh, this, oh, that, or whatever. But yeah, and there are times when it is circumstances
yeah.
beyond our control, like the pandemic. I mean, let's face it, who saw this coming? Not many people. Um,
No,
and but you have to kind of make the best of it. But again, it's like you get that choice. And I think that's the thing that people don't necessarily always get, is that there is a choice. It may
yeah,
not necessarily be a choice we want to make or a very nice choice, but there is a
it's
choice.
there.
And even if that choice is, okay, something's happened, how am I going to react to it?
Yes.
It's still a choice, whether it's conscious or unconscious, or
It is a choice.
it's still, there's something in there.
Yeah, sometimes it can take a while to work through these choices. They're not
Yeah.
always overnight decisions as well.
No.
But it depends on how much you want something and how long you take to make the decision, really, I think.
Yeah,
And if
definitely.
you're torn
Yeah.
between two things you want and you only are able to choose one of the two things you want,
Absolutely.
it
Yeah,
is.
I mean, it's weird because I mean, I think as I say, when I had my pit blip, I had been running for 4 years to try and outrun my brother's suicide because I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to have to face it. It was one of those things where it's like, we weren't close, so I didn't have a gaping hole in my life. Why is everybody making a big drama about this? What I didn't take into consideration was my role in the family had fundamentally changed because I was the second, I was number two. I was number two. I was always number two. I absolutely knew where my place was. I was number two. My brother was like, was it the apple of my mum's eye? He was number one. He was the firstborn son, absolutely everything, and then there was me. I accepted that long time ago. But when my brother died, suddenly I got promoted to like first. And I couldn't handle that to start off with because I was a bit like, oh, I don't know how to be number one. I've never been number one.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
So I kind of had that understanding a little bit of, like what it must be like to be at the Olympics or at a World Championships or something like that. And you come second and you're so thrilled because you've got the silver medal. And then someone taps you on the shoulder and goes, yeah, the gold's been disqualified. So you've got gold. Well done. And it's like, but oh, okay, I didn't earn that.
No.
I didn't want that. Can we just rerun the race? But, it's that kind of thing. So I kind of went through that. And I think that's what I struggled with most. But when I was talking to people about it, because again, suicides is a bit of a weird, it's a weird subject. And this was 16 years ago. So it was even weirder then because nobody talked about it. And I didn't know, at that point, I didn't know anybody else who'd ever committed suicide. I didn't know anybody, as I say, it was so taboo and it polarized people because the minute people sort of said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I heard your brother died. What happened? Oh, he killed himself. You could see people kind of backing away going, but for me, I'm quite a factual person because at that time I was probably a little bit too emotionally shut down. I was probably a little bit too well,
your way of handling it.
For me it was, but again, it was a preservation thing. I didn't understand how to handle my emotions, therefore I didn't have them. So it's not necessarily the healthiest way to do it.
It's funny you say that because I think a lot of people do, and I think you do have them, it just you're not acknowledging them, isn't it? In that state,
exactly.
And it's like that pre-contemplation state, sort of pre-awareness.
That's a really interesting way of putting it. But I mean, as I say, at the time it was just like the light was on but no one was home. It was just like I don't understand why everybody's kind of it's just something to go through. So as I say, I had to outrun it, and I tried to outrun it, and obviously I couldn't. But one of the things that I took away from the whole kind of, because obviously I did it all, I didn't wrong, but I did a PIP way of dealing with it. So when it first happened, it was like, right, throw myself back into work, go into project mode. I went straight into project mode. Who needs to be told? How do we arrange a funeral? Sorting out his house, sorting out his speaking to the debtors and the creditors and doing his tax returns, and anything else that needed to be done. It was like, right, project, it's fine. I had a spreadsheet, I was happy. But I went to grief counselling because it was like, well, you go to grief counselling. That's what you do, isn't it? It's part of the process. Somebody dies, you go to grief counselling. But I was nowhere near ready to have grief counselling.
No, and that's interesting.
I hadn't even acknowledged the fact that my brother had died.
No.
My brother also, he died. I'd only been married 3 months.
Oh, no.
So my first year of marriage was kind of challenging. And also my wedding was a little bit of a kind of weird moment for me because that was the last time we were together as a family.
Oh.
So for a long time, about 2 years, I couldn't watch my wedding video. I couldn't even look at the photos because it just was, I didn't understand why at the time, but it was that kind of, it was the last time we were together as a family.
Yeah.
So, you know, as I say, so having gone through lots of sort of, you know, sort of like probably like proper therapy, NLP therapy, you know, lots of talking therapy, I got to the place where I accepted that what he, you know, that it was his choice. That was the choice that he made. It's not a choice I could ever make because, you know, and I've had that conversation with several therapists where, and I've actually freaked a few of them out where they're like, you know, when you go and see somebody for the first time and they're like, you know, I have to sort of say, I'll never tell anybody about anything that you say unless I think you're a danger to yourself or others. At which point I always go, you can take that one off the table because my brother did that. So that's never going to happen. And I've freaked a few therapists out where they're like, okay, never heard anybody say it quite like that, but thanks for the honesty. Because I could never do it because I've seen the effects of it. I've seen what it does to people.
Yeah.
But the only way I can get my head around it is it was his choice. It was the choice that he made. Whether or not he was in a bad place, whatever, I will never understand. So I can't even put myself into that place. So therefore, I have to go with it's a choice. And I've had conversations with people and they're like, well, no, he obviously saw he didn't have a choice. And I'm thinking, okay, without being horrible, he chose to buy a rope. He chose to make a noose. He chose, you know, if you want to break it down, there were lots of choices. But that's
So
what he did. I have to move, you know, we have to move on from it. It's really, really sad. And, you know, and I mean, weirdly, by me talking about it and being open about it, it actually made me, it actually allowed me to connect with a lot more people who had been through similar things or had similar experiences, but had nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know anybody else.
No.
And I think that's the thing is when you know, you suddenly have to be a bit brave every now and then. It's exactly what you've done with your book. It's, you know, you have to be brave and put yourself out there because as soon as you do, you suddenly start connecting with different people who go, I get that. I get that.
Yeah. And the whole point is about the book is to try and catch people and prevent people from having to go like you have through the grief side of counselling. And obviously it would have affected your parents badly as well.
Oh yeah.
So as a family, you know, you're all suffering and it's hard to support each other when you're all in pain.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, it's, you know, my mum, you know, my parent, well, both of my parents, I don't think they've ever, you know, get over it's the wrong word, but I don't think they have ever fully accepted it or will ever fully accept it because how can you? You're not supposed to bury your children.
No.
You're not supposed to do that. That's, you know, again, we talk about beliefs. It's like that's a very, very strong cultural belief.
Yeah, not supposed to have to bury your own children.
No.
Happens for many reasons as well, not just suicide.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've
Absolutely.
known a lot of people going through depression. You know, it could be through losing young children through illness.
Yeah.
Could be like stillbirth. It could be. I mean, suicide isn't even just about adults and
No.
teenagers.
No.
My son first attempted to commit suicide when he was just 8 years old,
Wow.
and I was very, very fortunate to just catch the hood of his coat. And he stood there in front of a whole load of people in front of the school, and he screamed at me, "Why did you stop me? Why didn't you let me die? I don't want to live anymore." And oh my God, I felt so kicked in the gut. Like, what do you do in a moment like that? How do you react? You know, and you know, it's always that thing. Oh, you know, gossip outside the school, and what are the mums going to think of me? Oh my God, how do you think I felt in that
Yeah, but
moment?
again, that's that inner critic again. But
and it's like everybody just stopped and stood there and stared, but nobody knew what to do. I didn't know what to do, but I just bundled him in the car. And you know, the first thing you do is you have a reaction.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, oh my God, how could you do that? And I flipped into quite an angry reaction with him in a way, but not angry at him, but like an adrenaline type reaction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, don't you do that to me again. You do that again, I'll make sure you go in somewhere with a white coat on and your arms will be strapped around. You'll have a needle stuck up your bum every day until you get. And I was like really angry with him, like trying to threaten him out of it. But, you know, I didn't know what to do. But he was
No.
then suicidal every single day for the next year at least. And
Wow.
that was really, really tough.
But that's what I mean. It's
So,
like you're not, nobody gives you a handbook
no,
about how to deal with anything. That's the thing. That's, you know, it's like, you know, we're all winging it pretty
well,
much for
they
the
do,
rest of our life.
they do now.
Yeah. So yeah,
Most
but
one
that's what I
now, yeah.
mean. It's like, you know, and unless someone creates something like you've done, there isn't
Mm,
one there. So it's like, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And none of us, as I say, none of us come out of the womb as experts in everything and
no,
anything. We're all learning. We're all kind of just adapting and and adjusting, and trial and error with a lot of this stuff. Yeah, we all get it
yeah.
wrong.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, it's emotions and mental health. I one of the things that actually happened as a result of, like, again, weird circumstances, me, in case you haven't noticed, I can talk quite a lot. I do have quite a big mouth, but that's okay. It's one of my strengths.
you have a good speaking voice. Be
It's
positive.
one of my strengths. It is, but you know, I don't. I am my my ex-husband always used to say that I would talk to anybody about anything, much to his horror, when we're standing in Sainsbury's having a chat with somebody, and he's like, "Who's that?" No, no idea, just have a chat. So yeah, he would be like, "Get it out," but you know.
Yeah, been
But
there.
one of the things that I did was, it was International Men's Day a couple of years ago, and it was all about suicide prevention. So I was working at Virgin Money at the time, and I was part of the we called it Gender Agenda, which was sort of about diversity and equality, and making sure that you know, the sort of rights of men and women were equal, trying to sort of like foster really positive relationships, because obviously banking is traditionally heavily male. So we were trying to sort of make sure that everybody felt like they had a part to play within the organisation. So we were doing this whole campaign about International Men's Day. And I sort of sat there one evening and I went home and I thought, do you know what? I've actually got a story to tell here. I've actually got a real life example that might help one person to think differently about it.
Bravo.
So
Yeah.
the next morning I went into the office and I sent an email to the sort of team saying, look, I think I have a story here. Do you think people would be interested in this? And they pretty much bit my arm off and went, absolutely, this is so relevant to the campaign that we're running, if you're happy to put yourself out there. So I wrote it. I wrote my brother's story. I wrote what happened. I wrote how I felt about it. I wrote how it took me so many years to understand you know, myself and how I felt about it, and the sort of like the impact it had on me and my, you know, my marriage, and my as I say, turned me into workaholic, because it was like, if I'm working, I'm not thinking. And it also my journey into self-discovery and understanding myself, and understanding that I need an outlet for my stress, which is when I got back into horses, having had a bit of a break. As a result of that, it was published on the intranet. Now, again, didn't really sort of like, you know, think this through. You know, you don't, do you? So it went on the intranet. I got so many emails, phone calls, messages from people going, I can totally read it. I read it. It was, I could hear your voice in it. It was honest. It was a bit uncomfortable, but totally got where you were coming from. And people who were like, I can understand how you're talking about like suicide, because I've had that talk, and other people who were talking about your mental health, and as in, I understand how you feel. Like, you know, I literally had gone into, like, my self-preservation had gone into overdrive. I was to the point where I was obsessed with catkins out on the deck. I was out there every 5 minutes sweeping them off, because I needed to control stuff, because something had happened that was totally off my radar. I had no idea. I had no comprehension that could even happen. I got caught out, as I said to one of my therapists, and he was like, okay, you're trying to control nature. This is not going to end well. At which point I realized I'd probably gone a little bit too far. And then it was like, okay, we're going to rein this back in. We're going to rein it back in. And that's when I started getting a lot more coping strategies and, you know, ways of understanding how I'm doing. But as a result of the writing the article, I then got approached by our culture director to say, did I want to be part of something pretty special? And I was like, okay. She said, I've read your story. Our CEO's read your story. We both think this is amazing, and we have an opportunity for you. Could you come to Newcastle? I'm like, okay. Next day, they announced that Heads Together, so the charity that's set up by Prince William, Catherine, Kate, and Prince Harry, were going to be having the sponsorship for the London Marathon.
Yes, yeah, I remember that started up.
Yeah. So the reason I was going to Newcastle was to meet Prince Harry, to have a conversation with him about my brother, about the story. And because he was going to the Newcastle was our head office at the time, he was going in there to be part of the launch of the charity. You know, that they were going to be the charity for the marathon. So I got to meet Prince Harry, which even now is still such a amazing, surreal, incredible experience that I got from probably the darkest days of my life. That something so positive and so good could come from something so horrific.
The trauma's a triumph moment.
Absolutely. And and he's a lovely guy. We had a really, really good long chat. And it was one of those kind of moments. And then Heads Together took my article and sort of like repackaged it and put it out. And again, it was seen by like something like nearly 2 million people. And again, the reaction was incredible from people saying, you know, how it had touched them and how they could get it. And even that, so it's like, you know, sometimes it's really worth putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because we all have a story to tell. You know, whether it doesn't always have to be about trauma or something horrific. It's just, you know, anything that you can demonstrate that you've overcome adversity. As I say, you know, when I tell people that I moved to Sweden when I'm 12, they're like, there's no way at 12 I could have lived in a foreign country. You know, there's no way I could have done that. And it's like, well, you don't know unless you try.
I think the thing is, if anybody's taken a step forward, they're at an advantage to help someone who's a step behind.
Absolutely.
As simple as that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things when I first started going into coaching, because, you know, obviously I'd started doing my NLP stuff years and years and years ago. And it was like, I'm too busy with work. I haven't got enough time. I haven't got the bandwidth, blah, 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 blah. And lockdown was my opportunity. I went, you know what? I've got quite a lot of time on my hands, quite frankly. I'm going to do it. So I did it. But one of the things that I kind of loved about it was, and you know, is the fact that I can help people. But I also had that massive kind of like imposter syndrome where it's like, well, who am I to help? You know, I've only just literally qualified. Who am I to help? And my sort of like coaching mentor, he just turned around to me and said, you just have to be one step ahead of everybody else. You don't have to be an expert.
No.
And you just have to be one step ahead.
Questions I've had from other people, but, you know, what makes you, you know, for me, from my point of view, they've said, you know, a lot of people have said to me, well, what makes you think you can do that? You know, you haven't got any qualifications. You're not a counsellor. You're not a psychologist. You're not a therapist. No, but I'm a mum. Right. And as a mum, I found a way to save my son's life. Why should I not share that with other people? Because that was what it was about, that I didn't need to be qualified to save my son's life. And I want to pay that forward. So, you know, I had that imposter syndrome along the journey of like, the voices start to get in your head when enough people say it to, and you have to be strong and go, do you know what? No, I know what I'm talking about. I am going to do this. And you have to be, you have to find somewhere from inside that inner strength to just say, no, I'm going to keep going. And one day, and it was like just coming up to Christmas. In fact, it was probably just actually this Christmas, after 5 years, I finally got a well done.
Really?
It takes 5 years to get that far. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is so weird because, as you say, it's, you know, I think that the, you know, one of the things that the reason I called the company Leave a Trail is because for me, it's so easy just to follow a path that everybody else does. But one of the things that gets said to me an awful lot, and I don't mean this in a big-headed way, it's just because I am open about my struggles, because I am open about the things that have happened to me in my life, there's lots of people who have called me inspirational, or who look at me and say, oh, you know, I mean, you're an inspiration. Now, for me, I kind of, I'm quite a humble person, so I'm always a bit kind of like, oh God, oh no, don't call me an inspiration. Ooh. But it's not the, so I haven't, so yeah, so I have a negative association with that word, which I understand. Yeah, my stuff.
Again, I've had a lot of Norwegians tell me, just say thank you.
And that's, and do you know what, I do that, and that's exactly it. It's one of the things I say to my clients all the time. It's like, if somebody gives you a compliment, just say thank you. Doesn't matter whether you're cringing inside, just go thank you. And it's like, oh, okay, and it does massively work. But
yeah,
it's so for me, what I wanted to do with the company was help to inspire people by showing them that there is different ways to do it. So when I was sort of playing around with ideas, somebody sent me, a good friend sent me a quote about, if you can't see the path, make your own, kind of thing. And it was like, and leave a trail. Yeah. And it just resonated with me so much, because that's what it's about to me. It's not about just going, this is the only path. It's about, oh my God, it's a big world. There's a whole different way of doing this. So that's why I called it Leave a Trail. And that's why my ethos is about helping other people to just be out there, be talking about what's going on with them, be thinking about things differently, and leaving a trail. Because the thing is, you never know who's looking. You never know who's watching, because again, I wrote an article for an intranet with 3,000 employees, and before you know it, it's like I'm meeting Prince Harry. You never know what's going to happen with it. You never know who's looking at that.
Again,
I think honesty is something.
Yeah, again, like this, like I said, all the imposter syndrome I've had and all the criticisms en route. And in the week I've published it, I've already had an invite to go onto an international TV channel.
I know, which is absolutely incredible.
Wow, like me fell off my chair. But yeah, it's just got to believe in it. You've got to be passionate about it if you want to help other people. But it's about, there is always a need for inspiring other people through sharing stories like this, and just having this opportunity to talk and for other people to listen in is incredible. And the funny thing is,
you'll get people who'll turn around and kind of go, oh well, I couldn't do that, or that, oh that's so I can't relate to that. But even if somebody can relate to one thing of just waking up in the morning and going, I want to get out of bed.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this. And through lockdown, one of the things I write a blog as well. So I write a blog, and I also do what I've called the Path to Positive Pip. So I have a blog which I talk about, which was when I broke my ankle and my recovery from that. So again, lots has happened. So 2020 was going to be my year. 2020 was going to be my year. I was told I was being redundant in 2019. So 2020 was going to be my year. 2nd of January, I broke my ankle badly, had to have surgery, 5 weeks in plaster. Quite challenging when you live on your own, but hey, got through that. And then literally just starting to get going, lockdown. Okay, here we go. So a few challenges. So but I've been really open about it. So I've posted a photo when I'm in absolute floods of tears, because I don't know how I'm going to keep going, because having spent so long on my own and being, I'm a massive people person, and having spent 30 years working in the corporate environment, being surrounded by people all the time, to suddenly running my own business and being on my own all day was a bit, okay. But even as that, when, showing people it's okay to have emotion, that it's okay to be down, it's okay to have up days, it's okay to be happy. Just because somebody else is sad doesn't mean that you can't be happy. Just because somebody else is having a worse time, it doesn't mean you can't acknowledge the fact that actually right now in your world things are a bit pants. I had this conversation with people all the time who were like, well, there are starving children in Africa. Why am I complaining about the fact that I'm carrying a few extra pounds? It's like, it doesn't matter, because by doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're almost saying that your stuff isn't important. And right now in your world, that's a big deal for you. So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to change it? How are you going to change? Is it you need to change your perception, or is it you're going to change your diet, or you're going to sign up for some exercise classes? Because let's face it, there's lots of Zoom exercise classes. I think that's probably quite terrifying, because there's probably going to be a few injuries.
Yeah.
If it's anything like lockdown 1, where I saw lots of
Yeah,
people running who I thought, please don't run, please just walk, because yeah, you look like you've got on all the people who've got on their bicycle for the first time in like 20 years and gone, yeah, let's go for a cycle. Ooh.
oh goodness, it's like me. I tried doing some yoga before Christmas, while I was doing the book. I thought it'd be good once a week to do a yoga on Zoom. And then one afternoon I was really stressed sitting at the computer, so I thought I'd get up and do some yoga. And I'd literally sort of like all sort of stretched out and warmed up, and I'd got my head down between my knees, my arms around my neck. I'd got like this. So literally bum up in the air, head down, trying to traction my neck towards the
Mm.
floor. And the phone rang and made me jump, and I actually put a vertebrae out on my neck. Right in the middle of trying to the 12 days that I actually sat to write the book, it happened
Yeah,
right about 3 or 4 days into that. But good, it happened for a reason.
yeah.
All right. Yes, I had to go to the osteopath. Yes, it cost me money. It was sore. But I then found the delights, because I've been such old school, having to learn on the old carriage,
Mm.
you
Yeah,
know, having
yeah.
learned to type on the old original typewriters,
Mm-hmm.
um, to now being on a computer. I'm still a keyboard person. But
Ah,
because
okay.
I couldn't lift my left arm properly, I'm like, how am I supposed to write a book now? There's a
Mm.
dictation button. I can talk.
Mm. Nice.
About a good third of that book was talk typed. That's
Ah,
probably why there's
brilliant.
some errors might have been missed in there in the editing, because it didn't always understand me properly.
Yeah, yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. But I think that's the thing, is it's like, you can, I mean, again, what sort of kind of one of my favorite quotes is, falling down is an accident, staying down is a choice.
Yes.
And it's, and what we could all kind of go, oh well, life's dealt me a bad hand, and I can't do this and I can't do that. But do you know
Mm,
what it's about? Sometimes it's about just going, well, but what can I do?
yeah.
And even as you say, you couldn't type, but you found another way around it. And
Yeah.
that's what makes us amazing as human beings, is we have this amazing capacity for problem
Mm,
solving and for and creativity and all these things. It's also to
mm,
our detriment, because it means we can problem solve in a completely weird way, because we can create problems when there aren't problems, and we can
mm,
create amazing dramas in our own heads without any real foundation.
mm.
And again, that's sometimes when you just have to sort of like, kind of, as you
Mm.
say, just stop, take a deep
Actually,
breath, and kind of go, right, what is actually happening right now? What's
mm,
real? What's just the thoughts in my head? What's a reaction? What's an emotion? But that takes discipline.
mm.
It
That's what
takes
it's
so
all
much
about.
discipline. Yeah,
It
exactly.
goes
It's
round the
so
other
much
side.
discipline.
What happened in the outside world? What's the
Yeah,
inner reaction? And it's a choice. Are you going to keep going downwards? You
yeah,
don't want to be down here, or are you going to work your way back up?
yeah,
It's a choice.
yeah,
And when you can
absolutely.
see it like that, it's more obvious.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
is.
that's
Yeah, no,
what
it's
this is all
massively like
about.
that. But
But yeah,
yeah, but that's what it is.
my
But it's that awareness, because the trouble is we all go from external emotion and bypass the whole kind of like thought process that goes with it, and the filtering, and
mm,
the what triggered that, and what's my life experience that's brought me to
yeah,
this place. We just go straight from A to like Z and miss a few
yeah,
steps out.
just think, oh, well, I know I'm here, I want to be there. And that's where, if you don't know what's taken you into a different state of mind,
Mm,
and you don't address it properly, to get back to the other state of mind, you create
yeah,
habit, like sweeping your deck.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
say, trying to
yeah,
be in control of all the wrong things. And that's what
absolutely.
leads to those habits. That's what actually my little mantra up along the top, well, here, mastering life is all about mastering change. That's what I
Yeah,
was
I love
trying to
it.
put up there when we were in the back room.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
But I can
No,
see
I
I need
love
to
it. I love
adjust
it. I
it
love
because
it.
it's got little buttons in the way.
No, I can see it. It's lovely,
Oh,
and
you
it's
can?
true.
Because I've
Yeah, I
got
can see it
the
at the top.
live count on mine, and it says we've got 2 people watching. Hi.
Oh,
I am
cool.
aware they've been there, but we've been so busy talking. It's lovely. Um.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you know what? It's amazing. But I've got another call in about 5 minutes that I've got to get on to.
No, you're fine.
And the funny thing
I,
is last night
we could
I
carry on
told.
chatting.
Oh, I know. I said to everybody last night or yesterday in a quick video update that I'd rescheduled to tonight, because I was going to go to a Tony Webbins seminar last night
Oh yeah,
online.
yeah, yeah.
And I went over there, and they'd got the email, and the link didn't work.
Oh
And I
no.
tried and I messaged, and in the end they sent the link like 1 minute before it was due to start. And by then I was like, "Ugh, come on, I'm missing something."
Yeah.
Because after I'd done the video, about 5 minutes later, I got a message. Oh, here's the link to tonight's training.
Yeah.
I'd paid for some other training, but in my head, I'd got it down as Saturday. And then it come up,
Oh.
the training was last night, tonight, and tomorrow, when it's
Oh,
7 o'clock
right.
every night. But actually,
Okay.
because when I'll come back to that bit in a minute, because I'm here at 7 to 8. So anyway, I said to everybody yesterday, I'll go to the Tony Robbins one and I'll bring back a nugget of information to share. So
Yeah.
here's my nugget that I'm going to share. But because I didn't get on that, but I had sat through a seminar 2 nights before with them as well. So I'd done a series, but at the
Yeah.
last minute he said it's all about adding value. So we
Yeah.
added an extra night, which we hadn't planned for, you see, that we'd have
Um,
scheduled around. So I was like, no, I've got my live show, and that's okay. I'll reschedule the live, which was when I messaged you. I'll go on the
mm,
Tony Robbins one. I'll come back tonight and bring a nugget of something
yeah.
really valuable with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because then that was late, and I'd got this other message about the other training that I'd got the wrong day for. And I'm like, there's all this mastering change going on up here. My head's just like, what do I do? What do I do? And actually, it came back to value. Take time to think about what you value and
Mm-hmm.
what value you can add to other people. And
Yeah.
the lady who was running the training, or one of 2 ladies, one of them I know, and I've known her from the beginning of my journey and the
Right.
beginning of her journey to where she is now as the confidence expert.
Ah,
And
okay.
that, 5 years ago, she was standing on stage like, I don't want to talk, and she was like really, really nervous. And now she's the confidence expert in 5 years. So
Mm,
inspiration to anybody. Just
yeah.
take steps, and eventually you'll travel a distance. Just take
Yeah.
steps.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the nugget that I brought back was about value, because I valued her friendship
Mm-hmm.
more than going on that Tony Robbins seminar.
Yeah.
So when I finally, a minute before 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock last night, the link came through, I went to click on it and I thought, no, I'm going to the other one because I've paid
Yeah.
for it. So anyway, I went in there and they went, oh, hello, welcome. Do you know what? You've got us all to yourself. And I was the only one that turned up for the training. I had a brilliant evening,
Wow, how
a brilliant evening,
amazing.
all about money mindset. And oh my
Yeah.
goodness, didn't I? Because my book actually breaks root causes down into 5 things,
Mm-hmm.
5 categories, which
Yeah.
is finance, logic, information, time, and energy. And the
Mm.
time, all of the others I can sort out, but it's
Yeah.
the finances part is the one that
Mm-hmm.
is my biggest weakness. So
Right.
I went
Okay.
on this money mindset one last night, and wow, did I learn something?
Oh,
Absolutely.
wow.
And when you were talking about that path earlier, about leaving a
You've
leaving a new
tried, yeah.
trail, Natalie King, my friend last night, she talked through that about neuroplasticity. So she brought the science in behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying about that, if you're walking along a path and that's the path everybody goes on, it's going to be well trodden, it'll be clear. She
Yeah.
said, and there'll be a lot of brambles over here, and you might have get a few cuts and scratches, and it'll be hard work. She said, but if you keep walking that trail enough, eventually that will become the clear trail.
Yeah.
And if you stop walking on the other one, that will grow over and
Yeah.
you will start a whole new trail.
Oh,
And she said,
yeah.
that's how you rewire your mind. And I thought, that was a brilliant way to describe it.
That
And
is
that's
absolutely
obviously
brilliant.
what you're
Absolutely
achieving
brilliant.
as well.
Yeah, and it's true. And sometimes, it's that kind of, as I say, for me, I know having done this a lot in my life, if everybody's looking at the same view, and then you go off on a slightly different path, 9 times out of 10, the view's better
Yeah.
because it's
And people
it's
follow.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
guarantee in life that if somebody starts a new path, it's not long
Somebody else will
before
come.
somebody else goes,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going down
Oh
there and
yeah,
all.
absolutely. I mean, and or in our case, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of it in terms of all you have to do is like if you get 2 people standing next to each other, somebody comes along and goes, "Is this a queue?"
Yeah.
But again, that's a very British thing, isn't it? It's like it's easy to start a new queue.
Yeah, I'll share a link down there later to a video, because there's one online about somebody dancing. There was
Oh
like a
really?
whole
Yeah,
hill overlooking a sports arena, like this grassy hill, and
yeah,
like people all sat around picnicking, and one person gets up to start dancing. And I'll
yeah.
share the video to see what
Yeah,
happens, because
it's
it's
amazing. It's
amazing.
amazing. You'll get that. You'll get the sort of like again, you get that sort of like tribe mentality, that kind of like that herd mentality of oh, someone's doing something different.
Yeah. And do you know what I want to
Run
share
to.
about is that one person who got up and danced in that video was you and
Yeah,
me. That
yeah,
would be up in our fields,
yeah.
right?
It would.
But
Yeah,
what I loved, and I'm sharing this for the people watching tonight, because this really is for you. I've got to look the right way of the camera. I forget which end my camera is every week, and I'm always looking at the wrong one.
yeah.
Because It's so dark and small on the end of the frame. So
We need to put a picture above it so that you know.
This is for you because I love you, and my message from Tony Robbins is to add value, right? I'm going to share this link. The video is about one person who stands up to dance. That's the leader. But the video is about how that is not the most important person. The most important person is the next person that gets up to follow him. And I'll leave you to go and watch it, and that's leave it on that. But thank you ever so much, Pip, for tonight. And I think we've got so much more we could talk about.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
we're going to have to schedule you back in somewhere in the lineup later on.
Definitely,
And,
always happy to do a return visit. Absolutely, yes, an encore. Yes, I did lots of I did drama. I did a lot of dramatic. You might guess actually that I did a lot of drama and sort of acting and things like that, and modelling and Christ knows what else. So yeah, I'm very good in front of the camera. Not so good behind the camera because most of my photos tend to come out sort of slightly on the wonk. Yeah, I'm better in front of the
other way round. I love taking pictures, but I didn't want to be in them. But it took me a lot of stepping outside my comfort zone to even take a selfie, let alone get on the camera and talk. But that's the thing, when you push yourself outside your comfort zone and you keep doing it over and over, and you go a little bit further and a little bit further, look what you end up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so, and I genuinely am so thrilled for you because I know although I haven't known you very long, I've known you since you sort of almost went, yeah, I'm going to do this. It was like, oh, all right, okay, she's writing. Blimey, she's doing this. So, yeah, you know, I'm writing a book, and it'll be out by Christmas.
Tears at the time. It was like, I got to do this. I got this.
Absolutely. Really, but it's been wonderful to go through that journey with you because again, it's kind of. Writing a book is something that I kind of obviously I thought many times about writing my brother's story, writing sort of like all sorts of things. And again, it's just that kind of thing of you take inspiration where you suddenly spot it.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I'm more than happy to come back whenever you want.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks ever so much, Pip. And what it is, if you want to pop a link in when we're finished for your website, I'm happy for you to do that. So if anybody likes what you've said tonight, connects with you, if for any unfortunate reason somebody does feel that they need someone to talk to who can understand what we've been through and would like to talk with Pip, then please do get in touch with her. So next week, oddly enough, because we'd planned yoga this week, next week, and I had no idea until yesterday, day before, that you were coming on. And next week we have Stuart Falconer, and actually we're talking about teen suicide awareness next week. But that's because he again has had a very similar situation under slightly different circumstances, similar situation, but also about how he's turned again trauma into triumph and started what's called the Ollie Foundation, which stands for One Life Lost is Enough. And again, they teach the mental health first aid. I've actually invited me to go on one of their courses at some point.
I have to admit, I was very impressed when I did my mental health first aider course. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. It was really worthwhile doing in my eyes. And it's one of those things where I wish it was part of the curriculum, because I really do think the more people who understand it, the better next generations will be.
Okay, absolutely. Maybe that's what we can schedule in another time. We'll do the mental health first aid bit and focus on that.
Absolutely, definitely.
I think that's a really key one. Although, so we've got Stuart talking about next week, but we'll go from there and see from there. I like to try and keep a variety of topics. Oh my goodness, we've had some topics on here.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's all about emotional awareness, but my goodness, the amount of topics it covers is astonishing. Yeah. But thank you, everybody tonight who's watched. Thank you so much to Pip. My gratitude to you for stepping in at short notice. And my new craze I'm starting this week is hugs and healing to you all. Have a good week.
Oh, love that.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.